Unsolved Mysteries.
The images still provoke stunned disbelief. As investigators continue the search for answers, conspiracy buffs continue to push scenarios of military involvement and high-level cover-up. What happened to TWA Flight 800? It was a young family's dream house that turned into a nightmare of ghostly turmoil and demonic mayhem. Can a team of high-tech Ghostbusters find out what's behind the chaos? Don't miss this hair-raising tour of a haunted house. From ancient Greece to TV Xena, the mythic exploits of fearless women warriors have captivated countless generations. But were the Amazons more than just a legend? Recent discoveries in Russia may provide a surprising answer. In 1992, doctors told Candy Horner's family to prepare for the worst. But as she slipped into a coma, Candy says she was visited by an extraordinary vision of love, a vision that brought her back from the brink of death. Join me for these intriguing cases. Perhaps you may be able to solve one of tonight's unsolved mysteries. For most of us, haunted houses are the places we visit on Halloween. We scream, we jump, we laugh, and we go home. But for 20 years, a family in a suburb of Cleveland, Ohio, has had to deal with a daunting fact that for them, home is a haunted house.
Wait. Okay.
Got it?
Yeah.
You first.
In 1972, a newly married couple, we'll call them Joe and Mary Smith, moved into what they thought was their dream home. But the dream didn't last long. By the time Mary was pregnant with her first child, she got her first warning. Something was seriously wrong. On a night when Mary was all alone, she heard a commotion start up in the attic.
It really worried me because it sounded much more than a mouse or a raccoon or something. Sort of like grating noises and things being dragged, so to speak.
Mary called her father, a Cleveland police detective. He approached the attic with gun drawn, expecting a burglar.
Sweetheart, take a look at this.
Oh my God!
The attic was a complete mess. Blankets pulled out, boxes of Christmas ornaments dumped, childhood trinkets broken. There was no sign of a human culprit, and the attic was supposed to be sealed tight against animals.
The thought ran through my mind that no animal could possibly have done that kind of chaos. It wasn't probable, and at that point I just shivered kind of like with fear because something was there that I didn't know about, and I didn't particularly care for that feeling at all.
Hints of something sinister in the house never stopped. Doorknobs turned of their own accord, and the strange noises continued. Mary soon learned the house had a disturbing past.
And we've had a nice walk. No. We hold hands till we get back.
In the 1940s, previous owners had reportedly adopted a little boy. One day, the child mysteriously vanished. Even now, no one knows what happened to him. Over the years, Mary couldn't help but suspect that that boy might be connected to the hauntings. One night, when her own son was almost the same age as a long-lost child, Mary says he let out a blood-curdling scream.
It just was a very tormented type of a cry. That's what I heard in his voice, was that horrible fear.
What do you see, honey?
Mary had no idea what had so traumatized her son until he visited his grandmother a few weeks later.
I'll be in the kitchen if you need me. Well, why?
And I thought, what happened? He says, Grandma, I want to go home. I'm not never coming back here again. I said, why? Why? Why aren't you coming back? He says, no, devil. And I thought, what is he talking about?
What?
A devil.
What are you saying?
A devil.
Devil?
Devil.
The child was pointing at a religious picture of St. Michael the Archangel trampling Satan underfoot.
It's just a picture.
The little boy later told his mother it was the same devil he had seen in his bedroom.
I'll take the picture down,
Life in Mary's house became a ride on a surreal roller coaster, especially when she realized the hauntings were not always malevolent. Shortly after Mary's second child was born, he developed a life-threatening case of jaundice. The condition required surgery. The night before the operation, Mary got down on her knees and prayed.
Dear Lord, I pray to you tonight. I am grateful for all you have given me, but please.
And much to my surprise, as I was kneeling there praying, I saw this most beautiful white light. It just kind of engulfed your whole inner being with just a soothing, real soothing peace that everything will be all right.
Mary says the light was coming directly from the baby's room. Mary was astonished. All traces of jaundice seemed gone. The next morning, blood tests confirmed the baby boy was cured.
Oh my God, it's gone.
I think it's an evil spirit in our house, but I also think there's a guardian angel looking over us. I think that there's a war between the good and the evil going on, is my explanation. And we're kind of caught right in the middle.
When Mary's third son was 5, he had a different kind of encounter with the spirits of the house.
And he stared and blinked his eyes and stared again, and he still saw it.
During the next several years, the boy suffered severe stomach pains. Doctors couldn't find a cause or a cure. Eventually, like the man on the stairs, the pains just disappeared.
I think it's going to come down to be just plain being honest, saying it's unexplainable. I can say that the medications that I've used for him have helped ameliorate his symptoms and maybe have helped a little bit of the irritation that was there. But as far as being able to cure and taking responsibility for curing his problem, I cannot do that.
Mary and her husband considered moving many times, but they had invested a good deal of money and effort in the house, and they didn't want to risk losing it. Finally, in 1993, Mary discovered what she now believes is the key to the house's unsettling history. Rumor had it that the little boy who once lived there had in fact died under mysterious circumstances and was actually buried somewhere on the property.
It just was creepy. I perhaps thought there might be a connection. In fact, it wasn't a might be. I was very concerned that there probably was a connection.
Mary went to bed that night believing that the unhappy fate of the little boy had somehow tainted her house with evil.
I felt an electrical shock going through my whole body. The shocks were so strong that I felt as though I was welded to that bed. I thought I was going to die in that bed, actually, because I couldn't escape it, and I didn't know if there were going to be more shocks. And then the radio started playing, which made it even worse. It made it more bizarre.
Downstairs, Mary's second son, then a teenager, had just finished showering. He noticed the dryer had inexplicably gone on by itself and could not be turned off.
And I attribute it to the spirit that I believe exists in our home was so angry that the pieces finally fit that it just went crazy.
When most people think of a haunted house, they think of spirits of the dead. But in most cases, houses that are haunted genuinely appear to be haunted by some type of an energy force.
Dr. Andrew Nichols is a parapsychologist, a ghostbuster who hunts unexplained phenomena with the latest in technology. At the request of Unsolved Mysteries, Dr. Nichols, his colleague Russ McCarty, and another well-known parapsychologist, Dr. William Roll, investigated Mary's home.
This was where there was quite a bit of activity. Boxes moved.
We conducted a series of energy field scans throughout the house to try to establish a baseline energy field reading. Electromagnetic, electric, magnetic fields, microwave fields, to try to determine if there are any unusual energy fields present in the house.
In one of the bedrooms, the parapsychologist found an unusually strong electromagnetic field surrounding a dresser left behind by previous owners.
One of the suggestions that I made to the family was that they remove the dresser at least from the bedroom and preferably from the house temporarily and see if it has an effect on the haunting phenomena that they're experiencing. In many cases, we find that that's the case. If a person has acquired a piece, an antique, and suddenly haunting phenomena starts up, it may be actually associated with that piece of furniture.
The parapsychologist found even stronger readings in the basement, where an abandoned well ran down 120 feet to an underground lake.
We find many houses that are haunted are located over sources of underground water. And so there does seem to be a correlation. This may conduct some form of psychic energy. It may conduct some form of natural earth-based magnetic fields that stimulates a person's psychic abilities. The well pipe is located directly under the bedroom of the primary witness, so it's possible that she is being exposed to these natural earth-generated magnetic and electrical fields on a regular basis. People ask us frequently, do we believe in ghosts? And the answer is yes. There's no question that people experience ghosts, but what are they? Are they actually spirits of the dead? Are they some type of entities from another dimension? Or are they some strange artifact of human psyche? Unfortunately, those are questions which for now remain an unsolved mystery.
Coming up, did a missile cause the tragedy of TWA Flight 800? Could the U.S. Navy be involved? A special report on the controversy that refuses to go away. But first, when an undercover drug operation goes bad, a federal agent is gunned down.
I'd like to propose a toast to Richard Fez, best agent this side of the Mississippi.
Thank you. June 30th, 1994 was a red-letter day for Drug Enforcement Agent Richard Fez.
I just want to say that I'm really proud to work with all of you guys. And honestly, I mean, you guys are the best team of agents I ever worked with.
After more than 8 years of dangerous undercover work, he was finally leaving the streets. Fez was being promoted to an administrative position. Fez's partner, Michael Pelonero.
But I think Richard was in a position where he was ready to advance his career. This is really a positive stepping stone in an agent's career.
We're gonna miss you, buddy.
Thank you, boss.
The lunch celebration ended at 2 p.m., but Richard Fez had one last piece of unfinished business. Late that afternoon, Agents Fez and Pelonero drove to an automotive repair shop just outside of Phoenix, Arizona. They were posing as drug buyers and carrying $160,000 in cash. It was Richard Fez's last undercover assignment. The previous day, he had set up a deal with this man, Augustin Vasquez Mendoza. Mendoza had agreed to sell him 22 pounds of methamphetamine or speed. Mendoza was known to Agents Fez and Pelonero as Fernando. 6:25 p.m. Pelonero stays in the truck while Fez enters a garage. The man in the dark blue shirt is a confidential police informant. The other man is Juan Vasquez, an associate of Fernando's. Fernando himself is not present.
La feria? Vamos a ver, ¿no? Claro.
The operation proceeds as expected. Vasquez wants to see the cash. In the back of the garage, two more men wait. On the left, a second police informant. On the right, a man named Rafael Rubio, another associate of Fernando's.
Who's this? It's my brother-in-law.
How you doing?
Hey. How's it going? Let me see.
He looked into the duffel bag and didn't touch it or anything, but apparently he was satisfied that there was, in fact, $160,000 there.
Yeah, we got a deal.
6:30. Vasquez apparently calls Fernando to confirm that the buy is good.
Enrique, ya llegaron.
Fez waits outside until Agent Pelonero repositions the truck. 6:32.
All units.
Pelonero puts backup units on alert. A deal is going down.
Fine, we got your back.
6:35. The double cross. Vasquez and Rubio want the drugs and the cash.
Richard told the individual that if he wanted the money, that he didn't have to do this, that he had kids, he had a family, that he was just doing this for profit, and that he didn't have to do anything wrong, that anything he wanted, he could have. One individual told the other one to handcuff Richard and the two informants. I believe that Richard saw death staring him in the face, and he reacted.
¡Idiotas! ¡Les dije que se callen la boca! ¡Ya lo mataste! ¡Vámonos!
Rubio has been shot once. He and Vasquez flee in opposite directions.
All units, it's gone to hell! It's a rip-off! It's a rip-off! I'm going in! On our way!
It was very chaotic at that point. But when I saw the vehicle leaving, I tried to ram it, and I missed it. I was on the radio all this time, and I put out a message that that vehicle needs to be stopped.
Been hit! Boss been hit! Where is he? He's in there! Let's go!
With backup units in pursuit of the suspects, Pelonero rushes inside. Richard Fez has been shot 5 times at point-blank range. He will be dead within an hour. 6:41. Drug enforcement agents in high-speed pursuit of Rubio.
When he fled in the vehicle, it was rush hour traffic. He was on both sides, weaving in and out of traffic, and he was making every attempt possible to avoid being captured.
6:45 p.m. Vasquez enters an alleyway a few hundred feet from the crime scene. .652. 3 miles away, the agents close in on Rubio.
3, 1,
By 7:15, it's all over. Later, Rafael Rubio and Juan Vasquez are booked on charges of first-degree murder. They are both convicted and sentenced to life in prison. However, Agustin Vasquez Mendoza is still on the run. He has also been charged with first-degree murder. Authorities believe he masterminded the ripoff.
Robbery was their motive from the very onset. I don't think that there was ever any intent to do a dope deal with us, that they knew that the money was outside. Apparently, these people did not want to negotiate. They had a plan, and no matter what Richard did or said, was going to deviate them. And at that particular point in time, I believe that Richard realized that he had to do something to protect not only his life, but the life of other people as well.
Richard Fez died a hero's death at the age of 37. He was honored with the DEA's Award of Valor. He left behind a wife and 4 children.
I lost my best friend. I miss him dearly. Richard will always be in my heart. Nothing can ever take those memories and him away from me. But our main intention now is to seek this fugitive that's out there.
Next, every week, millions of fans thrill to the feats of Xena, the warrior princess. But did a legendary race of Amazon women ever truly exist? They called them Amazons, strong, fearless women like TV Xena, ruthless warriors who dominated men. Contrary to popular belief, the legend of the Amazons did not originate in South America, but in ancient Greece, where the historian Herodotus first immortalized their mythic deeds in the 5th century BC. Rumor had it Amazons were so warlike that they could not marry until they had first killed an enemy in battle. Even their name had awesome implications. In Greek, Amazon apparently meant without one breast. The women supposedly cut away their own flesh to make it easier to shoot a bow and arrow.
The Greeks used the Amazons as the antithesis of what a Greek woman should be. The Greek woman should stay at home, take care of the kids, take care of the house, and the Amazon went out and fought the Greeks, and so therefore she got what was coming to her when she was killed.
For centuries, people assumed the tales of wild Amazon warriors were merely fiction, an ancient myth created to enhance the glory of Greece. Now, 2,500 years later, archaeological digs on the windswept Russian steppes have revealed a long-buried secret. A tribe of nomadic women warriors, perhaps real-life Amazons, once rode these desolate plains.
The goal is to determine if we can determine any specific ethnicity from these particular tribes. They're Indo-European, but there may be subtle differences. There are subtle differences.
Janine Davis Kimball and a team of American and Russian archaeologists has spent 4 years excavating Iron Age burial mounds in southern Russia that date from the time of Herodotus's writings. Traditional scholars believe early nomads were male-dominated tribes. The men were the leaders, the warriors, the priests. But these graves tell a new story.
We never think of women in the context of a nomadic society. It's not ever been interpreted from that point of view. So here we are out in the steppes, we're excavating nomads, early nomads, and suddenly we have women with weapons, women who are actually controlling wealth because of the wealth in their burials. We have a different concept entirely of what we think of nomads.
The burial mounds contain the graves of both men and women. Perhaps the most intriguing remains were those of a young girl, no more than 14 years old. She was only as tall as an average woman today, but the artifacts buried with her prove she was no ordinary teenager.
She had a quiver by her side that had a lot of bronze arrowheads in it. She had a dagger on the other side, and then there was this large boar's tusk that was drilled, and it was probably suspended around her waist from a cord.
Another woman was found with a bronze arrowhead still embedded in her body cavity, a sign that she likely died in battle. But these women were more than warriors. The wide variety of ritual artifacts found in the graves showed a society where the power of a woman was often greater than that of a man. The graves of the male nomads also revealed surprises.
We have a lesser variety of statuses among the male population than among the female population. There's guys that fight and there's guys that don't. And we even have males that have a child buried with them. And this is extremely unusual because we have no females with a child buried with them.
But who were these warrior women? Are they the archetypes for the Amazons? Their matriarchal culture is gone, overrun 2,000 years ago by invading Mongols, Huns, and Visigoths. Today, only their bones bear witness.
We've scientifically proven that there were women warriors, number one. Number two, we also now realize that women have not always been at the bottom of the pit and can control their own lives and be like a woman warrior.
The legend of the Amazon still echoes. In South America, the majestic Amazon River is named after them. In the United States, California takes its name from an Amazon queen, Khalifa. And on television, the mythic power of warrior women continues to fascinate the world. The discovery in Russia isn't definitive proof that Amazons were real, but it does raise tantalizing possibilities. Who knows what the next excavation will reveal? Perhaps someday archaeologists will discover evidence of other ancient fables. The true root of Ulysses' Odyssey, the calcified bones of the Cyclops, or the shattered marble columns of the lost city of Atlantis. When we return, a woman on the brink of death, an extraordinary vision, a breathtaking recovery that her doctor says can only be a miracle. And later, ever since the crash of TWA Flight 800, the investigation has been shadowed by disturbing rumors of conspiracy and government cover-up. According to all the medical literature, Candy Gaither Horner should have died in 1992. She is convinced she is alive today because her sister Roxy reached out to save her life. If so, it's nothing less than amazing. Roxy had been dead for 13 years. In October of 1992, Candy Horner was fighting a critical round in an 8-year battle against leukemia, a battle no one expected her to win.
Please, don't give up.
Every day I felt I was getting worse, that I didn't really know if I was going to make it or not.
Keep fighting, sweetheart.
When I started slipping into my coma, I thought about Roxy. I thought about seeing her in her hospital bed. I thought about, were Mom and Dad going to have to go through this again? I thought a lot about that.
Candy and Roxy were the two oldest in a family of 6 children. They were the only girls, born just 13 months apart. They and their 4 brothers grew up in a small farming community in Illinois. Like most youngsters, the sisters often fought as much as they played.
She loves her rice cereal. I know.
But by the time they were both adults and young mothers, Candy and Roxy had formed a deep and permanent bond.
Fast.
blast last night. Thank you so much for the warm bottle.
Roxy and I got real close when, well, she became a mother first, and then I did. So I asked her advice, and she gave it to me, and we started getting along really, really well then.
She's in an auto accident.
Then on February 27th, 1979, Roxy was rushed to the hospital.
Roxy, honey, it's Mom and Dad.
Hi, honey.
Roxy had suffered serious head injuries after being thrown from a Jeep.
I'm sorry, but we need to get Roxy.
She was awake and talking, but her condition was critical. By the time Candy arrived, Roxy had slipped into a coma.
I thought that she would be fine. I thought she would wake up and we'd go home and everything would be fine. That's what I thought.
I love you, Roxy. I know I've never said those words before, but I hope you have always known that.
Candy never knew whether Roxy heard her words. 2 days later, Roxy died. She was 22 years old.
It was really hard. For a long time, I still thought she was just gone for a while. She'd be back. It took a long time for me to realize that she was really gone.
13 years later, Candy herself was lying in a hospital, desperately ill. After 7 years in remission, her cancer had revived, more virulent than ever. The only hope was a bone marrow transplant. At first, the transplant seemed to be a success, but 5 days later, Candy's body began to shut down. Her liver failed, and she started sinking into a coma.
Her family had been very dedicated in continuously supporting her, talking to her, and praying for her. But there came a time when I felt that I needed to prepare them for her possible death.
What Candy needed was a miracle, and she believes she got one. At some point during her ordeal, Candy says she felt a gentle touch upon her hand and awoke to see a young woman bathed in white light.
Roxy.
It was Roxy, exactly as she had appeared in life.
Candy, I love you, but you can't come with me now. Mom and Dad need you here.
I was so glad to see her.
You need to stay and fight.
They had been so long.
I can't. I'm too tired, and it hurts too much.
Mom and Dad already lost me. They couldn't stand to lose you too.
But I don't think I can take the pain any longer.
You have to stay here. You know why? Because you're going to be a grandmother someday.
Really?
I promise you. And I'm going to be watching over you. Always.
At first, I thought Roxy's visit was a dream. But then the more I thought about it, I thought I was so close to death, and I actually believe that she did visit me and she did give me the strength to fight. I felt cold one day. I don't know why. I just felt real cold, and I just opened my eyes. And there was my husband and my dad standing there.
What's going on?
You're gonna be all right, honey.
They were smiling. I mean, I knew something good had happened. I just wasn't sure what.
I think all physicians have cases in which they cannot explain the outcome. However, in my experience as a physician, this is truly the most amazing case, and I feel it qualifies truly as a medical miracle.
2 weeks later, Candy was released from the hospital. 2 years later, Roxy's prediction came true. Candy's daughter had a baby girl, Emmy.
Someday when my granddaughter grows up, I'm going to tell her all about Roxy.
Mom and Dad already lost me.
I figure people can believe what they want to believe, but I know that she was there with me.
You have to stay. You know why?
She was with me. I don't know how, but I do know that she was there, and I did talk to her, and she did talk to me. Me and Roxy had such a bond. I loved her so much. I never got to tell her that I loved her, and I feel like she came back to tell me, hey, I know you love me, and I love you too.
Next, what caused the crash of TWA Flight 800? Some conspiracy buffs are adamant that a missile fired by our own military brought the plane down. The investigators insist the charges are baseless and irresponsible. It was the summer of 1988. Tensions were running high between the United States and Iran. The USS Vincennes was patrolling the Persian Gulf. This footage was shot aboard the ship on July 3rd. That morning, the Vincennes, believing it was about to be attacked, fired 2 surface-to-air missiles at an unidentified aircraft.
We had him, got it. That was a dead on.
The crew's jubilance soon turned to horror. The target turned out to be an Iranian passenger plane carrying 290 innocent civilians. It was a terrible tragedy, but it did occur in what was essentially considered a war zone. Certainly it could never happen in peacetime. Certainly it could never happen here. Or could it? July 17th, 1996. TWA Flight 800 crashed into the Atlantic off the coast of Long Island, killing 230 passengers and crew.
I have found some people who have other information that I think...
4 months later, Pierre Salinger, former press secretary to President John Kennedy, made a stunning allegation. He claimed TWA 800 had been shot down by our own Navy, and that the Navy was attempting to conceal the truth. It's the rumor that refuses to go away. But is such a scenario even possible? And if it did happen, why have hundreds of people not said a word? Today, authorities are still trying to determine what caused the crash. The longer it takes, the greater the pain for those who lost family and friends, and the more whispered innuendo turns into public speculation. The investigation has been painstaking and tedious. Since the night of the tragedy, tons of debris have been scraped off the ocean floor in an attempt to piece the plane back together. Officials have narrowed down the cause to 3 possibilities: a bomb, mechanical malfunction, or a shoulder-launched terrorist missile. The missile scenario is largely supported by more than 30 credible eyewitness accounts of an unusual streak of light seen in the sky just before the explosion. However, physicist and missile expert Bud Sewell says those accounts could just as likely support a bomb scenario.
A terrorist bomb, if properly designed, would indeed give you a very bright, luminous streak out from the aircraft. So that it'd be very possible to have a design which could produce what the eyewitnesses said they saw.
But eyewitness testimony, no matter how credible, cannot stand alone. As far as anyone knew, there was no physical evidence of a missile hit, much less one fired by the U.S. Navy, unless you believe Pierre Salinger.
And despite Navy statements that they had nothing to do with the TW-800 crash, we have strong evidence that they are wrong.
Just last month, Salinger was back again. At a press conference in Paris, he produced still frames of radar sweeps that he claimed were recorded in the tower of New York's Kennedy Airport on the night of the tragedy. According to Paris Match magazine, TWA Flight 800 is represented by this written designation. Circled on the right is a Navy plane, a P-3 Orion, Circled in the center is U.S. Air Flight 217. The object circled on the left is unidentified. The conspiracy camp believes it is a Navy surface-to-air missile. In this frame, reportedly recorded a second before the crash, the unidentified object has disappeared. The P-3 Orion, TWA 800, and U.S. Air 217 are all in close proximity, but flying at different altitudes. In later frames, the TWA 800 designation has vanished from the scope. But if the plane was brought down by a missile, then where is the evidence? The government has said they found nothing conclusive to indicate a missile hit. Pierre Salinger disagrees.
Moreover, we have discovered that certain bodies on the plane were crushed by something which went through the plane, the missile.
Let us suppose, for the sake of argument, that the conspiracists are right. There is some circumstantial evidence to support their claims. The Navy has admitted that military exercises were being conducted off the Long Island coast the night of the crash. In fact, TWA 800 diverted from its original flight path to avoid a restricted area.
The Navy would almost certainly try to conduct exercises where they're not going to get in the way of shipping. And they don't really fire many missiles because the darn things cost $1 million each. So, they really don't do exercises. They assume that if they get a radar lock on with the ship, they will get a hit, and they just can't afford to shoot that many missiles.
But suppose the Navy did shoot a live missile that night, either accidentally or intentionally. Then where could it have come from? According to the Navy, the USS Normandy was the only ship with standard missile capability in the area. The Normandy was reportedly on maneuvers in the Atlantic, 180 miles south of the crash site.
The main problem is that the maximum range of the standard missile is 80 miles. And the Normandy was alleged to be 180 miles away from the incident. So it just doesn't make sense.
If a missile ship had been within the 80-mile radius to shoot it, the eyewitnesses would have seen a tremendous flash of light because the initial launch of a standard missile essentially lights up the night sky.
But regardless of what they say, we have now reached the point where we are totally sure that what we are saying is true.
Assume again that the conspiracy theorists are right, and the Normandy or some other ship was in fact within range and did accidentally shoot down the airliner. Is it conceivable that the Navy brass could successfully engineer a cover-up?
If it were a friendly fire incident, it would take approximately 1 day for everybody in the country to know it. You had, what, several hundred people on that ship, on the Normandy. How can you cover anything up? Sailors would write home to their sweethearts or their parents and say, my God, we did this. You couldn't. There's no way you could cover it up because sailors love to talk.
But the conspiracy camp points out that the Navy has been less than forthcoming in the past. When the Vincennes shot down the Iranian airliner in 1988, Navy officials initially tried to justify the action with false information. They claimed the plane had been emitting military codes. They have since admitted that this was not true. Could the same thing have happened with TWA 800?
I did contact a higher-ranking person in the Navy, and for what it's worth, the Navy, after this incident, did a thorough inventory. I mean, they should with things that cost $1 million, and they can account for every missile in the Atlantic Fleet by serial number. Of course, the doubters would say, sure, that's certainly what they'd say, but I have known this person that I talked to 40 years and have found very reliable.
As you know, in the press yesterday and this morning, the FBI has been renewing its attack on us.
Pierre Salinger and his associates continue to insist that the government is lying. But critics of the conspiracy theory are quick to point out that a cover-up would have to include not just hundreds of Navy personnel, but also hundreds of civilians involved with the investigation. Join me next time for another compelling hour of Unsolved Mysteries.